Welcome to Stuck, Time to Improv. I'm Mary Scott with Business Riff, and I want startups to be wildly successful. When you're a startup, there's all kinds of things on your plate at once and all kinds of hats you're wearing, and it can be chaotic. So today we have a special guest, Maartje van Krieken from the Chaos Games Consulting, and she's going to give us tips on how to get wrangling that chaos. Thanks for coming, Maartje.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
So, what are some of the first things a startup needs to do to get a handle on all this?
Typically, to me, the cause of chaos in business is around the way decisions are made or not made. And I often compare leadership in a very dynamic environment, like when you are in a startup, to being a skipper on a yacht or a sailboat. Often, when we hit a storm, we have a tendency to wait for calmer waters or to plot a completely different course, and neither are very successful because you either drift off course while waiting for better weather, or you're actually working towards a different destination than you set out. So, to me, it's important that people keep that beacon of what is your destination, what's your definition of success very clearly in mind, and then have good decision-making hygiene to make sure that everything you do makes sense in light of where you want to go.
Good decision-making hygiene. Please elaborate on that.
Well, so there is over 180 biases that creep into decision making. So as humans are not great at decision making in the first place. And then when you add pressure or stress or emotions, it gets disproportionately worse, right? And so there is a lot of good decision making frameworks out there. I prefer the Stanford one because it's very simple and easy to understand. And it's effectively a code rack that you can use to work through your decision making. And it helps you to avoid blind spot. It helps you to take out some of that bias, and it helps you to make sure that you make the best decision you can with the information you have in the moment, which typically also means you don't recycle as much, that you can communicate your decision, that it's clearer what actions to take next, and all these things. It typically helps very much with momentum and focus and shedding the stuff that you shouldn't be doing.
What sorts of things do people end up doing that they should not be doing?
Well, typically in startups, there is a lot of things that other people are also doing. So other startups in same or similar fields, or suggestions or tips that others have brought. What I see often in startups is that the opinion of one or two becomes very important without being filtered. And so, for instance, somebody is working on a startup in the medical field and then finds somebody who's really a key player in a certain networks and says, oh, we could totally use this if only you tweak this a little bit this way or a little bit that way. And then people are so excited because they're like, look, this guy is a super heavyweight in this business and he knows it all. And so we need to make this switch. Not remembering that, of course, this person is in this business and is looking at it through that lens, and that by changing your direction, first of all, you were going one way for a certain reason. Don't throw all that overboard. Two, are you closing doors if you're now opening new ones, right? Does that mean that you cannot be a certain solution to others if you're choosing this new direction? So just because somebody brings it up as an idea, one person's comments are just that, an idea for consideration. It needs a bit more testing and work. So typically there's a lot of opinions of others, maybe sometimes not enough trust in self and thinking that somebody else has it figured out and they seem to be moving faster than you are. So maybe they know, without validating whether any of that's relevant to you.
So it's not just about taking advice, it's by looking at what context that advice is coming in
Yeah.
and keeping track of that beacon about where you went to go in the first place.
Yes, and if you have decision-making hygiene, it means that you will also know why you heard that advice and why you didn't take it, so that when the subject comes back later, you can go back and go like, okay, but this is now changed. So now it does make this sense to go down this direction. Or you can explain to somebody why you choose not to go that way in a way that makes sense to people. And they go, okay, you put it that way. I understand why you're going a different direction.
Well, this is very interesting stuff. Do you have a major tip that you like to give startups?
Yes, I think apart from working on your own decision, something that I see go wrong or lead to rework and recycles and ineffective progress um, is not enough focus and thinking about how your stakeholders make decisions. So, putting a pitch deck in a format that's appealing to you or is prescribed by the university that you're maybe associated with, or that you're somebody else that you know used and looks useful to you is great. But ultimately, you're going to have to do some tweaking to anything you generate based on who you're putting it in front of. Think about what the main risks are that these people perceive with what you're doing. What are the main questions they might be looking for answers on? And how do these people make decisions? Because you typically have some idea, and influencing skills plays a big role in this. So, are you pitching to an audience who is trying to figure out if you actually have the perceived seniority, right, to be doing something like this? Or is this an audience who wants to get a warmer feeling about the technology or your application because it's so out there? Or are they looking at whether your team has the scars and the experience to pull something like this through? Or will they be swayed by knowing what others think of the idea? So thinking about how your partners make decisions makes you so much more effective in engaging with them. And being willing to do that little bit of tailoring is going to save you a lot of time in the long run.
That is such good advice. I always tell people you need at least three different pitch decks and make sure you're not reading those slides.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and that's pretty basic, right? And you can have a portfolio of slides and just change kind of the first
Sure.
ones and then put stuff in slightly different order. It's not about making completely different packs of work
Right.
because the answer should be somewhere in there, right?
Sure.
If
And
you
a
need
lot
to
of stuff goes
generate the
into the
answer,
appendices. A lot of stuff is you don't pull up the slide until someone in the room asks that question.
yeah,
So thank you so much, Maartje. This has been really good information for people. And if they want to know more about the Stanford method, they can contact you. And we will
for
put
sure.
that information into the comments. So,
Thank you
and
so much.
this is Mary Scott with Business Riff. I want startups to be wildly successful. And one of the best things you can do to accomplish that is book a call with me at businessriff.com. And join us again next time for Stuck, Time to Improv.